And staying with that sustainability theme, but from a global perspective, there's little doubt feeding the world's burgeoning population is one of the greatest challenges facing humankind. There's less arable land, less water for agriculture, and a rising middle class that's consuming raw materials at a much faster rate. And of course, all of this set against the uncertain impact of climate change. Hans Joehr is the head of agriculture at Nestle, one of the world's largest multinational food companies. He's been in Australia this week as part of a sustainable agriculture initiative, and he spoke to Landline's Tim Lee in Melbourne.
It must be a very daunting equation that the global challenges facing agriculture over the next 20 years include the loss of arable land, a burgeoning population of around 9 billion. Is it a really difficult and a grim equation to confront?
Well, I think, first of all, we have to understand that producing food means that you have to interact with natural resources, and you have farmers who are then growing all the crops, and then you have to look into what they need to do to make sure that they can grow safe crops, that they can grow quality crops, that they can grow also crops that may suit the consumers' expectations. So how do we do that together with producers? Well, we look into their production systems, into their production methods, and we find out if the way they are producing their crops or the way they are looking at dairy farming, if they are doing this in a sustainable manner. What does it mean? Doing it in a sustainable manner is checking out the production systems and to see either you are in harmony to a certain degree with using nature by not polluting or not destroying or not also wasting natural resources. And this is then giving us a kind of a benchmark of what kind of guidelines and what kind of practices you are there to be in line with what we would call sustainable agricultural practices.
How hard is it to achieve that balance between sustainability and profit?
You know, in general, we have strong evidence that you can still produce better and more with less. So saying you do not need really to chop down further forests or to need more water resources, because there is still in almost everywhere where I go a lot of waste of natural resources. But therefore, you have to mainly combine 2-3 things. And this is about having the right planting material available, or let's say the right genetics. Combine this with the right good agriculture practices, and also nurturing in terms of feeding the cows right to get really milk, or nurturing in terms of fertilizing the crops. And at the same time, I think one of the most important issues is to really produce, by the end of the day, calories. You need to have also water. So it's a combination of those things with new technologies that will definitely boost further the resource use. And that is what we call the sustainable intensification of agriculture. And once again, this is a journey. And you can only embark in this journey once you have the right, I would say, attitude towards this kind of way forward, and really being open-minded to use the different new ingredients towards sustainable agriculture.
You've said on record during your time here in Australia that the best recipe for peace is a full stomach for the world's population. How do we achieve that?
I have never seen and never listened to or never read in history books that people with big bellies go for a revolution. That is clear that political and social stability comes really definitely with having enough calories and enough good food on the plate of people around the world, yes.
So what do you see as the major challenges facing agriculture over the next 20 years?
We strongly believe that we will have in few years, 5, 10, 15 years, several 100 million more who can really enjoy a diet due to their purchasing power that has a kind of a really balanced diet, but they will also ask for a differentiated diet, and that means that they may consume more animal protein than vegetable proteins because exactly they have more purchasing power. So all those things, they are going to put even more pressure on production systems. Agriculture has to play an extremely important role to enable us to feed the world and to feed eventually one day 9 billion people on that planet.
Well, finally, do you have a message you'd like to leave us with here in Australia?
You know, if you are a few days in this wonderful country, it's always very difficult and very tricky to give good messages to a lot of people here. But what I know about your wonderful country is that you have a lot of natural resources available that, to a certain degree, could be engaged in producing more calories for serving also consumers outside of Australia. So maybe a recommendation could be to think about where is our place as Australia of being part of really nurturing, of really feeding the world in terms of future food security for the world. And that also ends into maybe a big opportunity for many rural areas to create value and prosperity in rural Australia once you are linked to the global markets in a very competitive way. And I strongly believe that you have these opportunities here in Australia.